So hi, very good evening to all of you. So I hope that you must have understood that what to read, what not to read in the yesterday's class, and then apart from that, we also went through a roller coaster ride whereby I told you that entire modern Indian history in the yesterday's class, though it cannot be said that it was entire modern Indian history class in one go, but you got some percents of the history in yesterday's class. So today we are going to start with the formal chapters of the modern Indian history, and the timeline itself was the sequence of the classes. In fact, very first thing that we discussed in the yesterday's class was the colonial advent of Europeans. So that would be, I am a person who doesn't jump from one place to another place, but I believe in going in a sequence, in going in a timeline. And if it is history, so I don't think that jumping from here and there, one topic, prioritizing topic, this is important, this I'll read first, this I'll read later. No. It's all about history, and anything which is in the sequence, you'll understand better. So we will be going by the timeline. We will be going by the sequence that we have seen yesterday. So the very first thing, colonial advent of Europeans, and then we will be moving to the later Mughal period. There we will be discussing after the death of the Aurangzeb what has happened in the Mughal Empire. Moreover, their power has weakened, but there are so many give and take in this period. And that is also the period that later Mughal period rule is also the rise of the British as the only imperialist power in India at the same point of time. Many regional powerful states are there, and how their demise is happening in 1800s. So these all things we'll be looking at, and that was the very first part of your syllabus that you have seen yesterday. When you were looking at the main syllabus, so the very first part was right from the 1750s until 1857. So till 1857, what were the significant events and issues of that time? So we are going to start with the colonial advent of Europeans. Now, another thing that with this colonial advent of the Europeans, first of all, that the importance of this chapter as far as our exam is concerned. I have not seen in last 15 years a single question from this part. Does it make this chapter to be skipped, or should we need to read it? So that question also arises. So though nothing has been asked, but it does not mean it don't have a relevance. See, it's a history. History as a subject, it's more about understanding. That when you know the prior things, you will be better understanding the things which are asked in the exam. So UPSC is asking or not, UPSC has asked or not, that's altogether a different matter, but we will be touching upon this topic because it is important from the perspective of the understanding of the modern Indian history, the background in which the modern Indian history was set in. So we will be looking at this chapter. It's a small chapter, and moreover, it's that when I'm saying that it hasn't been asked, and moreover over the period that in the UPSC history itself that it's less asked portion, so that is also indicative of that you don't need to do the PhD in this topic. See that in market you will come across the books that which have n number of pages written on the particular topic, but the most important in this exam where you have so many subjects where you will be tested upon, so the importance that where so many subjects are there, so the importance of a particular topic not repeated by UPSC, not very frequently asked by UPSC, gives you an indication that where you can put a lot of your efforts and which particular part you can just brush up and then you can go on. So this exam is not about doing a PhD on a particular topic, but it's a general studies. So in general studies, you need to have a general understanding of everything. Moreover, many people do indulge in the academician kind of attitude. So here also that academics will not work. Remember, this academics will not work, and then that approach like that what you have done in your PG courses and what you have done in your undergraduate courses in particular subject, see, there is some help, but that approach is not going to be employed over here. Until and unless you have the history as an optional, so then You will have to see much deeper things, but otherwise, most important in the history is that you don't get caught up in one topic unnecessarily, reading it too much and leaving the important portions behind. So that you must keep in mind. And how you can do that how you can prioritize that which all subjects, which all topics, which all themes I need to read more, and which all topics I will not say skip, but I can read less. That will only happen if you have before you the previous year papers, last 15-year papers at least. For prelims examination, you must have last 15-year papers, and also for the mains examination, at least last 10-year paper. So you must go through these papers, last 10-year paper of the mains examination, and then last 15-year paper of the prelims examination. It will give you a very good kind of glimpse that what UPSC is asking. Moreover, trends you will be able to observe. These previous year paper, previous year questions are your eyes and ears. This will give you indication that what UPSC is asking, what UPSC is expecting from you. And it is one of the most important steps that you must be doing. Yesterday we were talking about those books that you will be reading, the reference material. But I will add today that having a previous year paper book is the most important thing and most important thing to go with for any subject, not just the history, since I am here for the history, but for any other subject that you are preparing in UPSC, you must go through this approach. One more thing I would share today, that one more thing that you need to do is that paste your main syllabus in front of your study table. That just get it printed, all the 4 papers of GS, and then also your optional papers. So you get it printed, get a printout, and in big letters. It must not be very small so that you must have to take a lens and then you will see the syllabus. No, you will have to take it in the big bold letters, and that printout you must paste where you are reading most of the time. See, why it is necessary that main syllabus encompasses all the things which are there in the prelims examination. So once you have mastered the main syllabus, it means that you have also mastered the prelims syllabus. At the same point of time, when you know your syllabus, when you have mastered, you have crammed your syllabus, so it means that once you are studying the newspaper, you will not be needed to ask to the people, to the experts, that sir kya padna hai, bhaiya kya padna hai. You yourself will know that this is mentioned in the syllabus. This topic seems to be this title of the newspaper in the newspaper magazine. It seems to be similar to the one which has been mentioned in the syllabus. So then you yourself will come down to writing that this is important section, and then if you get important insights from that particular article, you will be noting down, or whatever way that is comfortable to you, digital notes or kind of that handwritten notes or whatever, memorization, so that you can do. So the very first step that you all must be doing is buying the previous year papers. And don't ask me for the publication. Go in the market and then just choose for you. And nowadays going in the market is not an easier thing, so you can browse the things over there in the digital platform and you can buy anyone. It's up to you. I have no recommendation that which publication. In fact, everybody would be publishing the same questions. Then it's not that they are going to publish the different question. You can only choose on the quality of paper and the print. So that's up to you. So buy this, and then the next thing, that by today itself, I expect that many of you, because this is the right thing to say, not every one of you. I know that some of you will not be doing, but many of you will take a printout of the syllabus. You will paste where you are studying most of the time. So do this. So let's begin with the very first topic, that is the colonial advent of the Europeans. So this is very first topic. Colonial advent of Europeans. And we will touch upon all those Europeans. In fact, I do have some PPTs also related to this topic. So that's what I was checking. So give me a little bit of time, 20-30 seconds, so that I may find that where these PPTs are. So I'll show you these PPTs, and it's also there with the the classroom team. So whenever they will feel so, they will upload. It's up to them. And as already I have mentioned to you that please don't ask me that, sir, ye PPT upload nahi hua. I'm not responsible for that. If I have given to the classroom team, please don't pester me with this, that you haven't got. You will have to pester with this to the classroom team. So the colonial advent of Europeans. Now, yesterday also we discussed that when we say the colonial advent of Europeans, and what comes into our mind, that very first thing, then when Vasco da Gama in 1498, he arrived in India. And I told you the background also. What was the background? That background was that fall of the Roman Empire and then rise of the Islamic world, and then after the Ottoman Turk Empire. So Ottoman Turk Empire and the Arabs, they were the beneficiaries from the Indian trade. And they were the beneficiaries from the Indian trade, and the cost of the spices, cotton, silk, and many other agricultural commodities, they were increasing, and incidence was more there on the European public. So they thought that somehow to cut off the Arab traders, the influence of the other Arab traders, we will have to find out the direct route to the India. And this adventure started initially one Spanish person, Columbus, started, and fortunately or unfortunately, whatever way, he landed in America. So he landed in America, and then there was this Treaty of Tordesillas, which I already mentioned yesterday. You don't need to write these things. It will not be asked, but I'm just repeating those things. So Treaty of Tordesillas between the Portugal and then Spain, whereby they created an imaginary line in the Atlantic Ocean. And after that, they divided the world in two parts, whereby Spain would be pursuing in the westward direction of that imaginary line, and Portugal would be pursuing in the eastward direction, that is entire Africa and then entire Asia. So a bigger prize was there with the Portugal at that point of time, because Americas were still an unexplored land. Then nobody knew that what kind of fate is there in the Americas. So it all started, and Portugal, for near about from 1500, you can say that 1500 to 1600, they had monopoly on the Indian Ocean. So in this area, and then after, these all influential European companies and then countries, they all got interested into the Indian trade and also Indonesian trade. So they started their journey from their own countries, following that direct sea trade route to India and also the Indonesia. So they were paying some charges to the Portugal, and at the same point of time, they found it quite lucrative for them. And I also mentioned that why the European world needed the trade from India and Indonesia, because these are the spice islands. At the same point of time, the most comfortable type of the clothing, cotton, was cultivated over here in India. And as you know, that cotton is the native plant of India. The first reference to the cotton is found in the Indus Valley civilization. So we are the native country of the cotton. At the same point of time, these spices were needed for preserving their food in the cold countries, in the Scandinavian, in this all European countries, which are comparatively much colder in nature. And at the same point of time, one more thing, that if the spices would not be there, so then their cooking would be so bland, and then they would be eating something which is not so, which doesn't taste so good. So there was importance of this country. There was importance of Indonesian islands, and all were running for it. So it all started, and the journey which happened in 1500, we can say that 1500. So 1500 to 1947, how many years you are counting on? So we are counting 400, near about 450 years. And in these 450 years, much water has flown under the bridge in this country. That much, see that I'm using some terms, maybe some of you may not be comfortable, but I will try to simplify it also at the same point of time. So many things have happened in this country, and it's too simple to say that many things have happened, but yes, transformations have happened in this country. So many transformations have happened in this country. In fact, that in between these 450 years, what has happened, that there has been a transition from the feudal conservative and exclusive social system to a different kind of system. So first, let's have a discussion that what I'm writing here, feudal India was a kind of a country that and exclusive. Please don't write. I will dictate this part and see that since you are not aware with my method, so I'm just trying to make it very clear here that my method of delivering in the classes is that first I'll be telling you the things and I'll be sharing the things with you, and then I would put the same in the words so that you can write, so that what you are reading in the classes, that's there in your notes. So that's the method. So in the beginning, you may be interested that what I'm saying in the beginning or what I'm saying in the middle, so you keep on writing. I would suggest that please listen to it. I would give you enough time. When I'm dictating, you can write it then. So India was a feudal, conservative and exclusive social system. I hope you know that what is a feudal system, and if you had before these classes, if the ancient and medieval would have happened, so it would have been much more clear that what is feudal system. So in Hindi, and one word which is quite popular in the Indian side, and I hope all of you must be aware about this, that it's a kind of a zamindari type of the system. So India was a country which is more identifying itself with the zamindari or feudal lordship. So before 1500, or you can say that before 1600, we were a kind of a feudal society and conservative. Yes, still at this point of time we are quite conservative. So conservative society, we were not open to that in terms of the cultural exchanges initially, that we were not, and many other exchanges we were not very open, and also about some practices. But change happened. Then exclusive social system. So you know that exclusive and inclusive social system, that there was no such kind of the diversity is there, and there was no such kind of intermingling at the same point of time. But what happened that in this 450 years, India transformed itself into from this kind of society to a capitalistic. So from feudal to the capitalistic, progressive and inclusive social system. So this was the initial, and then we became a capitalistic, progressive and inclusive social system. See, many of you may not understand that what we have written over here. See, this is just one such kind of sentence where it is written that India was a feudal, conservative, exclusive social system, and it transformed itself into capitalistic, progressive, inclusive social system. It will take 22 classes to understand this. So please don't jump into the boat that by this time only and at this moment only, you need to understand. It will take a little bit of time, that how it is transforming. It has been put into the sentence, but it will take a little bit of time to understand that how this transformation has happened. So this is what has happened. I'm giving you the introduction. So in 450 years, that this kind of transition has happened in the country India. Now, the question arises that how this transformation has happened. This transformation has happened with many processes. So some of the processes is that self-assertion based on introspection. So first we introspected, and then we asserted our rights. We asserted that what we need. So self-assertion based on introspection. And then apart from that, there were external stimuli of the ideas. Meaning that ideas are already there in India, but with these Europeans coming to India, they are also bringing so many European literature and European ideas, and the ideas of the liberty, equality, fraternity. So these external stimuli of ideas of equality, liberty, fraternity, and people's rule instead of the one man's rule, that is from monarchy to democracy. So India was a country, I mentioned to you yesterday that India was a country where only kingdoms and kingdoms and kingdoms and kingdoms were there. So we were specifically a monarchical system, but in this 450 years, not only we were ruled by a foreign country, but at the same point of time we realized so many things that we got to know that if this country has to be in one thread, so then that is to be in the democratic setup. and removing the monarchy. So this is what has happened in this 450 years of the colonial influence, or you can say that European, after the arrival of the Europeans in India. So this is quite a kind of an introduction that we would be writing today, and then after we would be moving to the Portuguese, that very first company or very first European who landed following the direct sea trade route to India. And moreover, see that what books do write, that Vasco da Gama first discovered the India. It's not a right way, and it's not a right way to say that somebody in 1498 discovered India, as if that India was not a land, and somebody who discovered he is like a god. See that nobody discovered this country. This country is already there from the time immemorial, like any other countries. And in fact, that we take great pride in this country being one of the vehicles of the growth in the entire world. So it was one of the most important country in the world, or you can say that it was the most important subcontinent in the world, and everybody was running for this country. At the same point of time that everybody is running for this country, this Vasco da Gama's arrival, it's about that the first person who found from Europe the direct sea route to India. So that is the meaning of the word, that what he discovered. He didn't discover India, he discovered the direct sea trade route to India. I hope you got that. And same is told about, I hope you know, that Americas were discovered by Columbus. No, not discovered by Columbus. If the first person who landed on Americas, he was not Columbus, he was Americio Vespucci. So that was and America is a kind of a name which resembles with the Americio Vespucci. So that's a different thing. We are not moving into the Americas. And it's better that Americans will read the America, or you must have read it in the world history. So now let's write what has been delivered, what has been shared with you. Please write few words. And also I would like to know from your end that when you are writing, when I'm dictating, so if you are matching the speed with which I am dictating, or if I am matching the moderate speed of your writing. So this very first day, you can tell me that how fast we can go and how slow we can moderate. So please write. India had contact with Europe. India had contact with Europe from time immemorial. India had contact with Europe from time immemorial. Through land route. From time immemorial through land route. Through land route. Full stop. I hope you have written. Then you mention, but the discovery of direct sea route, had far-reaching consequences on the shape and the course of Indian society and history. On the shape and course of Indian society and history. Full stop. Then you write the people who arrived first. So mention first to arrive in India. First to arrive in India were Portuguese, followed by Dutch, British, Danes, and French. British, Danes, and French. Full stop. Then further you mention, after full stop, much water has flown under the bridge. Much water has flown under the bridge in these 450 years. In these 450 years. Much water has flown under the bridge in these 450 years in India. Full stop. India underwent a transition. After full stop, India underwent a transition from a feudal conservative. India underwent a transition from a feudal conservative exclusive social system. Exclusive, this is written over here. Feudal conservative exclusive social system. To a capitalistic, progressive, inclusive social system. Capitalistic, progressive, inclusive social system. During this period, inclusive social system during this period. During this period. Then further you mention, during this period with self-assertion. With self-assertion, based on introspection, based on introspection and external stimuli of ideas. External stimuli of ideas. External stimuli of ideas like equality, liberty, fraternity, and people's rule. Instead of one man's rule. That is from monarchy to democracy. From monarchy to democracy. From monarchy to democracy. So this is a kind of introduction that we needed to write then. So this is just a beginning, and then let's move on to the first topic, that is the Europeans' arrival, and the first in this series who came were the Portuguese. So let's begin with the Portuguese. So I hope that page was okay, and then you were able to write. See that this is the most moderate speed with which I can dictate, but otherwise over the period, since it is the beginning classes, and then also your batch has, I don't know that when it all started, but since you are in the initial phase, so a little bit moderate speed could be there, but you need to enhance your speed. You need to increase your speed over the period. So initially we may go slow, but not after half of the course is complete. So everybody will have to write a little faster, because this is how you would be prepared for the exam. So right now I'm not going fast, and even at this speed, if you are not able to write, so then you'll have to think twice that you need to increase your speed. Okay? So let's move with the next part, that is give me 1 minute. I hope you have written this all. So now let's touch upon these all companies. They came to India, and when they came to India, so Portuguese were the first people. So Portuguese were the first people who started to, or who came to India. So the very first title or heading would be the Portuguese. Now, you know that this modern world in which we are living, it's all because of the spirit of adventure. And spirit of adventure in many things done, and then the most important and the basic, not basic, I will not say that most important, and the foremost was the seafaring activity. So one of the spirit of adventure was the seafaring activity, which actually promoted the geographical discovery in the far-flung areas. And if there would not have been seafaring activities, promotion of the seafaring activities, so there would not have been interconnectedness between the entire world, and there would not have been exchange of the ideas, there would not have been exchange of the commodities, there would not have been exchange of many things that we are using in the modern world. So in fact, that this is spirit of adventure which led to the discovery of the modern world, foundation of the modern world, particularly can be owed to the seafaring activity. And this objective, that this primary, that these particularly seafaring activities, the first it was promoted by, the very first time it was promoted by the Portuguese rulers then. So there was this Portuguese ruler, his name was Henry. And because he promoted the seafaring activity, he came to be known as the Henry the Navigator. If you want to know that how early he promoted this one, so he promoted somewhere in the beginning, in that second decade of the 15th century, that is somewhere around 1420s itself, he started to promote it. And by the time of his life, that by the time he was died, he has taken many strides in this one. So he promoted that, Henry promoted the seafaring activity, and because of his promotion, he came to be known as Prince Henry the Navigator. Moreover, why this promotion was there? So one can say that there are many benefits at this point of time, but what was the main objective at that point of time? So the one very simple objective was to earn profit from the trade. Earlier, you have seen, yesterday also I talked about that Arab traders were charging hefty amount with the European traders, and then intermediary, they were working as the intermediary Arab traders, and then what Arab traders have bought from India in 10 rupees, just for example, so what Arab traders have bought from India in 10 rupees, they were selling to the European traders in 30 rupees. What if that these European traders directly coming to India and buying the stuff in 10 rupees and then selling it into the 20 rupees in their market? So there is a profit for them, for them also, and at the same point of time, there is not much incidence on their public. So they wanted, these all countries, they wanted profit from trade from the eastern countries. Then Henry the Navigator, he died, and after his death, the other kings of the Portugal, they continued with this activity. So this was the regime of King John II, and in the regime of the King John II, Bartholomew Diaz, I will be writing these names. So Bartholomew Diaz, he crossed the Cape of Good Hope. Let's have a map of the world. So without the map, it would be a little difficult, or I will not say difficult, but whenever you have a map at your hand, so it becomes easier to go with the things and try to understand the things. So let me create a rough map. I'm not creating a very beautiful map. That needs skill. There are many skillful people who can do that. This is a rough land. And this is our country. Just give me a minute. And then we need to be drawing that other lands also. For example, here Portugal. This you can call Portugal, Spain, and Mediterranean. So this we can go with the Mediterranean, this all. So consider that this is the Europe part, and Spain and Portugal is the one which Spain and Portugal, here France would be there. So the trade route that we were discussing, so Portugal, they started from here, and this is the direct sea trade route to India, coming to the Kerala. Then this, what I said, that in the regime of the King John II, one sailor, his name was Bartholomew Diaz. So Bartholomew Diaz, let me write his name. Bartholomew Diaz. So he came closer to this point, and this is what we call Cape of Good Hope. So let me write, what is this? So this is Cape of Good Hope. So now half of the discovery to India, that sea route discovery to India, was done by this person, Bartholomew Diaz only. So Cape of Good Hope, and nowadays you call this town as the Cape Town, then, which is one of the very important cities of the South Africa. So he crossed the Cape of Good Hope. Now, the second half of the route was to be discovered. Again, one sailor, his name was the Vasco da Gama, and then he started somewhere in 1497. And at this point of time, there was another king in the Portugal. His name was King Emmanuel. So at the time of the King Emmanuel, Vasco da Gama started in 1497, and then till this point of time, the route was known. He has to discover this part, and then he discovered this part. So he arrived so-called place in India, Calicut. Nowadays, this place is Kozhikode. So he arrived in Kozhikode, and then he was given a grand welcome by the local rulers of the Kerala at that point of time, Calicut, Zamorans. So please write few words about the Portuguese. Please mention. Right. The spirit of adventure that led to foundation of modern world promoted geographical discoveries to the far-flung areas. Then further you mention, after full stop, the primary objective of these voyages VOYAGES. I know many a times, see, it will take a little bit of time that to understand some places where I am dictating something, I'm pronouncing something, my diction may not go well with you. So it will take 2-3 classes that you will understand my own diction, and I hope you understand that we all have different kind of, a little bit of Indian regional touch of the diction then. So I hope you understand, and if you are from the Tamil Nadu, so you have a little bit of different kind of pronunciation. In Kerala, a little different, and then in Bihar, it's altogether very different. So, and in Haryana, it's altogether very different, but we all are conversating in English. So wherever I will feel that spelling is a little difficult, or maybe it's not clear from my mouth, so then I would be writing it over here. So please don't be worried about that. And then moreover, please don't stop pasting those things in the response tab like a kind of bombing of the information. I know that it is Henry or Hess, so please don't do that. What I'm teaching you and what I'm delivering in the classes, that's a 9-year thing. So who is Henry and who is Harry Hess? Please don't joke on the response screen. It's not a tab for doing the joke kind of thing, and it's not a comedy circus which is going on. So please be serious. And chalo, I'll move forward. Then further, you write that the primary objective of these voyages were earning profit from the trade with Eastern countries. Earning profit from the trade with Eastern countries. Full stop. Prince Henry the Navigator and you can write years also, 1398 to 1460. Who was the ruler of Portugal? Took the lead among European nations. And promoted seafaring activity. Seafaring activity. Full stop. Then further you mention, during the regime of King John II, and it may feel like you are not reading history, but yes, bear with the very first class, this one, and then by tomorrow there is no class, but then by third class you would be in the proper history. So there's a little bit of offbeat this topic, but yes, we need to know that what is there in this topic. So during the regime of King John II, Bartholomew Diaz, let me get back to the spelling where it has been written. So you can write this one. Bartholomew Diaz crossed the Cape of Good Hope, this place, the Cape of Good Hope. During the regime of King John II, Bartholomew Diaz crossed the Cape of Good Hope. Cape of Good Hope, full stop. It provided huge impetus. To the European seafarers. IMPETUS. This is what I pronounced. So, to the European seafarers. Then, finally, you write. You can change paragraph if you want to. So, you mention, during the tenure of during the tenure of King Emmanuel. During the tenure of King Emmanuel, a sailor Vasco da Gama, reached on the coast of Calicut, in May 1498. In May 1498. 1498. Coast of Calicut in May 1498. Then, so now listen that he was given. So it's not farers. Let me write seafarer. Seafarers. That's okay. Then, so you can correct the spelling. Now listen. So Vasco da Gama, he landed in Calicut, and then he was given a grand reception by the Zamorin rulers of the Kerala. And as I said yesterday also, that in Indian blood, you know, there is one thing which is very common. I will not say that all the 100% people do that, but overall the tradition in this country is that whoever is coming to your home, you treat him like a god, Atithi Devo Bhava. So that's how they treated him. But in reality, the Indians didn't knew that these Europeans, they are coming to India, maybe whatever their intention was in the beginning, but their intention will get a big wing by the time, and this big wing is all about that crushing the Indians under their wings. So that they will realize only after 250 years. So Vasco da Gama came, he was given a reception, and then he bought some few stuff from India, he bought spices from India, from Kerala, he returned back to his country, showed to the people that how cheaper he has bought, and then he has found a direct sea trade route. So it was a kind of a celebration. And then again, when he returned back, again he came back in 1501, and then again stayed in India till 1503, and then again he returned back to Portugal. So by the time he returned back to Portugal, these Portuguese, they were able to create their warehouses, you can say trading centers. It's better to say trading centers at Cochin. Then, so Cochin, nowadays it is known as Kochi, and then Calicut, which is known as the Kozhikode, and Kannanur. So Kannanur by 1503, and I hope that Kannanur right now it is known as the Kannur, which is also that one of the international airports in Kerala. So these three places, Calicut, Kochi and Kannanur, by 1503 they opened their trading centers. Then, so trading centers, and then after in 1503 when he returned back, so then the Portuguese government of that time, they decided that they would be sending an official to the India with a kind of a position, and they appointed the first viceroy, Portuguese viceroy in India. This viceroy was de Almeida. So de Almeida was appointed in 1505 as the first viceroy of Portuguese viceroy in India. Now, this person, that de Almeida, these names are maybe a little different to you, but over the period when you are revising, so you will become comfortable with these all names. So de Almeida, when he came, so he came up with a policy. He decided to initiate a policy. Name of the policy was the Cartes system or blue water policy. Let me write it, and I'll explain that also, that what did he meant by. First of all, the name of this person itself, de Almeida. And he thought, he decided that he will come up with this policy, blue water policy or cartage system. Cartage system. Now, what is this cartage system or blue water policy? That de Almeida was of the view that if you if you hold the monopoly in the Indian waters, that is Indian Ocean, entire Indian Ocean, including the Arabian Sea area also. So what you will be doing, that once you have established your dominance in this area, anybody, even that not only the Europeans who are circumventing the Africa, they are paying charges to the Portuguese. But let's look at the diagram once again. Here you will understand. So this is Indian Ocean, and then here you have Arabian Sea. So Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean. Now, already they have established control in this area, that from the Atlantic till the Indian Ocean. So they have the control. Now, they want to control even this entire Bay Area. So this entire Bay Area, so he thought that if he would be controlling this area, so even Arabs who are coming to India, still coming to India for the trade, even they can be charged. So they can be charged, they will also be paying to the Portuguese and then already the Europeans are paying to the Portuguese so this could have a double benefit. And moreover, once you have dominance over here in this area, so it means that your trade with India would always be paramount and you would always be at the top echelon. Now, to hold a dominance over here, what you need to do? So very strong navy. You must have very strong naval power, and then you must have much more interventions, innovations in the shipping industry. So they started to invest in these all at the same point of time. And though initially Almeida was not successful, but his vision which was there, it was realized by the next successful viceroy in India. His name was Albuquerque. This is the difficult name. I'll be writing his name on the board. So Albuquerque, who was appointed in 1509, he is considered as the real founder of the Portuguese power in East. So the vision which was with the Almeida was not able to realize it. So it was realized by Albuquerque when he was here. And Albuquerque was the one who conquered Goa in 1510. It is said that he got the land of the Goa, the place of the Goa, from the Bijapuri rulers. So he was the one who conquered Goa in 1510. He also created a fort at Cochin. And then also he, going by the vision of the Almeida, he started permit system. Already he has established control over here in the Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean. So means that he has realized the blue water policy and cartel system, and now he started permit system for other ships and shipbuilding, meaning that they all have, anybody who is passing from this area, they will have to take the permit of the Portuguese, and then also not just the permit for crossing this area, but anywhere adjacent to this area for ship building also they needed to take the permit of the Portuguese. And this they did with their superior naval power. So this they did with the superior naval power. Please write few words. I think that what you have written, that during the tenure of the King Emmanuel, Vasco da Gama, in May he landed at the coast of Calicut. Then you write, afterwards you write, he was cordially received by Zamorans of Kerala. He was cordially received by Zamorans of Kerala. Then you write, after full stop, he again returned to India. In 1501. He again returned to India in 1501, and by 1503, they were able to, 1503, they were able to establish trading centers. They were able to establish trading centers at Cochin, Calicut, and Kannanur. Cochin, Calicut, and Kannanur. Then, after that, you write D. Almeida. That name I have written earlier also. Once again, you write D. Almeida. D. Almeida was the first Portuguese viceroy. D. Almeida was the first Portuguese viceroy in India. Was the first Portuguese viceroy in India. Full stop. In 1505. In 1505. Then further you mention after that. In 1505. He initiated blue water policy or cartage system. He initiated blue water policy or cartage system. Cartage system whereby he wanted to establish Portuguese control over entire Portuguese control whereby he wanted to establish Portuguese control over entire Indian Ocean including Arabian Sea. Indian Ocean including Arabian Sea. Arabian Sea. Done? So now, since I mentioned to you that Albuquerque was the next one in 1509 to 1515, and he is considered as the real founder of the Portuguese power in the East. And Albuquerque was the one who conquered Goa in 1510. So 1510 Goa is an interesting place. I know that all the Indians have a separate place in their hearts for the Goa, and then that this name itself brings smile on the face of the many people, at least 95% of the people. So can you tell me something about the Goa? This is my question to you, guys, that can you tell me that one native plant of the Goa, or one such plant in Goa which has much more nature conservation role in reclaiming the sea? So can you tell me the plant, one such plant in Goa which was important for the reclaiming the sea in the Goa, and it was initiated by Portuguese only? So I'm inviting answers from you. You guys can send. Yes, but do not bombard with the answers. Few people can send. If you know really, then you can send the answers. Coconut. But I just want to tell you that this plant was not the native plant of India. It was brought by the Portuguese. So yes, keep this in mind. So many of you are sending. I'm reading to your responses. That's why I'm tilted. So let's see that how Albuquerque, that's right, but what they introduce, I'm asking for the tree, and asking for the tree to reclaim the sea. And Portuguese have done a tremendous job in reclaiming the sea in the Goa. Ashutosh, I'm a little surprised that how tomato, such a kind of humble plant, can reclaim the sea. It's beyond my understanding. Potato, even potato, chilies, how they can reclaim the sea. I'm just asking that you guys, understanding that what is the reclaiming the sea. Okay, there is Portuguese mint, tobacco, corn. Oh, that's good. Chili, cashew, Kritika, and Ria. They have put a kind of that question mark, and then Nima, Kritika. Okay, all the ladies are right, and few males also. It's a cashew plant. It's not a native plant of India. Cashews are not native plant of India, and those who have sent cashew, kaju, you guys are right. Then, so now I have already told you the answers. Now you can stop sending the answers. Potato, tomato, chilies, and corn peppers, and then these all kind of things, as if we are going to make some kind of curry today. So it's not about the curry, it's about the cashews. Then, so cashews were used for reclaiming the sea. And yes, Lukesh, it's better that you have asked that what is the reclaiming the sea. So reclaiming the sea meaning slowly you are putting a little bit of sand and gravel in the sea to reclaim that land and then converting the sea area into the land area. That is the reclaiming the sea. And moreover, doing the construction in the sea area. So for reclamation, these cashew plants were used. And if you know the nature of the geography in this particular Goa, I hope that if geography classes is started, so you must have understood that no, mangroves were not used because it's a lateritic area. So lateritic soils are there, and lateritic soils, those who know a little bit of chemistry, they know that it is known for the leaching. So the cashew plant is one big advantage that once you start planting it over there, so less leaching of the soil would happen, and moreover you can reclaim the land from the sea. So this is why they introduced cashews in Goa. Its purpose was not to make the feni in the beginning, and its purpose was not to make some kind of kaju barfis in the beginning, but yes, and then also babinkas in the beginning. But what happened that after they have planted these particular trees, later on the natives of the Goa and other people in the Goa, they realized that the fruit has an advantage and many other things can be made. And now it is a delicacy, then it is one of the costliest nut. So not very costly, but one of the costliest nuts. Then, so it was the cashew which was introduced by the Portuguese for a different purpose, and then now it is known for a different purpose. Then, so I would be asking, meanwhile, that whenever the classes would be there, so somewhere or other, I would be asking this kind of questions. Then, so thank you to many of you who have. अब ये तो मैं नहीं बता पाऊंगा. How did it help in reclamation? अब चल के करके दिखाना पड़ेगा. So Harsh, what you need to do that that whenever that cases are less in Goa, book a flight for me and for you to Goa. We will go together, and then I'll give you explanation that how they have reclaimed. A live explanation. And those all from your batch who want to join, they can book their flights with Harsh. We all will go and we will see that how land was reclaimed. And that would be my prize. So let's move to the next information. So you're right. So Albuquerque. First I need to write the spelling of his name. So Albuquerque. It's such a difficult name. I feel like that it's the spelling, it's much more difficult than the Shakespeare. Yeah. You all must have had some kind of experience of writing the right spelling of the Shakespeare. And I did had the funny share. I hope you are understanding that what I'm referring to, that what I wrote, and I was given a slap by my class teacher that what I have written. But I was always amazed that this is a language, English is such a funny language that you never know that the diction is something and then what you're writing on the paper, many a times it is wrong. Then, so over here also that Albuquerque, if I'm right, this is the spelling. So Albuquerque was appointed in 1509 and he was there viceroy until 1515. And then what he did, that conquered Goa. He created a fort at Cochin, and then he started that permit system for other ships and shipbuilding. So this already I have explained, please write. So Albuquerque was appointed viceroy. Yes, hers. That soil erosion, it will stop soil erosion. That's why I was saying about leaching. So, right, was appointed viceroy in 1509. Then you write, he is considered as real founder of Portuguese power in East. Real founder of Portuguese power in East. Portuguese power in East. Then further you mention, he conquered Goa in 1510. He conquered Goa in 1510 and created a fort at Cochin. Fort at Cochin with the permission of local ruler. Then further you mention, he also conquered Ormuz. He also conquered Ormuz in the Persian Gulf. I'll tell you that where is this Ormuz. Ormuz in Persian Gulf. He also conquered Ormuz in Persian Gulf and eclipsed influence of Arab traders in India. Let's look at that here. That where is this Ormuz? Then, and the realization of the vision of the D'Almeida. So when it comes to Ormuz, nowadays the name has changed and it's a thing of the geography. Most of the time you read about the Gulf of Hormuz in geography. This area, this is Ormuz. Then nowadays it is known as Hormuz. Then, or Strait of Hormuz. Nowadays it is more Strait of Hormuz. This is called as Strait of Hormuz. And earlier it was known as the Hormuz. So you see that this area, this is the Persian Gulf, that Persia, that Iran is the Persian area and the Persian Gulf. And then this part you have Egypt, where you have that particular, what is the name of that canal? Then that where this incident last month happened, where this ship was stuck. So Suez Canal. Then so that Suez Canal. So that Suez Canal was created. So till this point of time, once they have control in the Hormuz area, so it means that they can tame the Arab traders. So that vision was realized by the D'Almeida's vision was realized by Albuquerque. So I hope you understand. Then you write, he started permit system. Very good, you all know, Suez Canal. So he started permit system for other ships and shipbuilding. Then, so this is about that these people, that some of the initial viceroys of Portuguese in India. Then one last viceroy. We are writing these things from the perspective of the exam, that what could be the more important and what can be asked, if at all UPSC is going to ask. So this is the last viceroy I would be mentioning, and then we will be moving to the next company, which is the Dutch East India Company. So first of all, so this last viceroy I'm going to mention, it does not mean that he was the last viceroy from the Portuguese side. For our study, he is the last one I'm mentioning. So now, the next personality was Nino da Cunha. Earlier, I did felt that it's only the Chinese name which was difficult. But when I started reading history, I thought that except Indian names, all the names are different. Except the names which are there in the Indian subcontinent, these all names are quite different. So some European names are also easier, but the old ones are little difficult. Nowadays it is easy to pronounce that Joe Biden and then Donald Trump. These all things are easier ones, but Indian names are easier, I do feel. And looking at these kind of names, I was like that in the beginning. Oh my God, how I'll remember these all names. Then, if at all UPSC has to ask from it. So, he was the last viceroy. He was appointed. He was not last viceroy for our study. So, 1529, he was appointed the viceroy, Portuguese viceroy in India. And then he acquired two more very important areas in India for the Portuguese. And these areas were the Diu and Basin. So, Diu and Basin, he acquired Diu and Basin. Then, so please mention that during the tenure of Nino da Cunha, 1529, in brackets you can write 1529, that was the period when he was appointed. Portuguese acquired Diu and Basin. Portuguese acquired Diu and Basin in 1534 and 1538. In 1534 and 1538. Mitali has asked that was there any specific reason to conquer Goa first? Yes, they wanted to be on the beaches and they wanted to highlight Goa as a tourist factor. That may be the reason. It's not required, my dear. Many a times I would be giving you some funny answers, but sometimes some questions don't have any answer. It's you to explore. And it's not like that you go into the mind of them that whatever that was available to them, wherever they can fight and wherever they can win, that's what they did. And so, Diu and Basin in 1534 and 1538. Now, what we need to know, one last thing we need to know, that one of the major impact of these Portuguese in India or in Indian society. So the arrival of the Portuguese, it led to the promotion of the cash crops in India. And which all kind of cash crops. So obviously, then initially they were interested in this particular what I was saying, that cotton. They were interested in spices and they were interested in tobacco also. Many of you have answered this tobacco also. So what happened? So they decided that in the beginning itself, where I was. So yes, they were here in India for these all kind of agricultural commodities. So after their arrival in India, there was a promotion of the cash crops then. So that's the one thing. So promotion of the cash crops. Moreover, some kind of industries were also set up to further export the things to the Portuguese people. And in return, what happened, that Portuguese people also realized that they need to acquire some of the Indian character. In fact, it was a norm in the Portuguese settlements at that point of time that they can take Indian wives so that they can understand much better India than any other European powers then. So that's why that even they became a very sublime power, even that when British were emerging as the most powerful people in India, even in that point, at that point of time, Portuguese never left the place which they first conquered, and they were always going strong in Goa, Daman, Diu, these all places. Then, and it's only after the independence in 1960s that they were evicted from these all places with a forceful action from the government of India's side. So please write few last words about the Portuguese. That one of the major impact on Indian society, due to arrival of Portuguese was promotion of cash crops. In India, like cotton, spices, silk, and tobacco. Cotton, spices, silk, and tobacco. So this is how we have touched this Portuguese. Now we'll be looking at the Dutch East India Company and then Danish East India Company. So Danish means the people who came from the Denmark. So British were the third to come to India, but we will see the British and then French in little elaborate because they were the most important powers. So that would be the last thing we will be seeing in the colonial advent of Europeans. But first we'll be looking at the Dutch, and they were the second to come to India. So they were second to come to India, the Dutch East India Company. So let's begin with the Dutch East India Company. And give me a minute. The Dutch East India Company. So now listen, that this company, it was established on 20th of March 1602. So this company was established on 20th of March 1602 and as a chartered company to trade with the Mughal India and also the countries which are there in the eastern side. So chartered company, I hope you understand that what is the meaning of the chartered company, but anyway, I will have to explain that what is meaning the chartered company. That once the government is giving the permission, so they are giving the charter, this charter will include the rights that they would be enjoying and what they can do in that particular area, and at the same point of time, it also defines the tenure, that for how many years, the most important part of a charter, that for how many years it has been given. So it was a chartered company given permission by the Dutch government to trade with the Mughal India. 1602, it is Mughal India, because you know that Babur founded the Mughal Empire in 1526, and this 1602 is the time when Akbar was the emperor of India. So Babur and that Akbar was there in the North India, and in South India there was this big empire of the Vijayanagar kingdom. So they were given permission by their country and they came to India. They got permission with the Mughal rulers also to trade in India. So initially they came as compared to the other companies which we will be seeing later on, like Danish and then English East India Company. So they are just going to follow the Dutch East India Company. The Dutch East India Company came up with a heavy capital flow. Then on the other hand, when we will be talking about the English East India Company, initially it came with a very low flow of the capital. So it can be said that whatever the amount that British East India Company was carrying at the point of arrival in India, so more than 15 to 20 times was carried by the Dutch East India Company. So it came as a wealthy company in India. And since it has so much of wealth, so they also have interest in the spice trade. Very quickly, they opened factories at many places. Then, so paisa ज़्यादा था, खर्च ज़्यादा कर सकते थे. So they opened factories at many places. And these places we would be writing for the purpose. So Pulicat, then Cambay, Surat, Agra, Hariyarpur, Patna, Dhaka, Nagapattinam. So very quickly they created these trading centers at these all places. Now, another thing that though the British came slow, but they accelerated fast. Their pace was fast, and slowly when they came to India, they came up with the small capital. But slowly, they brought so much of capital and they started to get so much profit from India that they started to emerge as a big company. And then when they started to emerge as a big company, so there was from the beginning itself, in fact, from 1623 itself, there was a big fight between the English and the Dutch. So they were always in the confrontation mode with each other. At that point of time, the Dutch had control on not only in Indian trade, but also their presence was there in the Indonesian islands then. So later on, they evaluated that rather than keeping the legs in two boat, they decided that where we have the monopoly of trade, why not focus on that area, leave the India to the people, the good number of the Europeans who are coming, they must fight with each other. We must go and save our Indonesian island. So finally they decided that they would be focusing on the Indonesian islands, and they winded up their business from India. So please write. Dutch East India Company. It was established on It was established on 20th March 1602. 20th March 1602 as a chartered company. As a chartered company. So I just want to know that since till this point of time you have written 2.5 pages. So are you so far with me when it comes to the speed, or I'm going too slow, or you maybe that dictation is fast to you? So you can send this particular response in the response screen. That pace was okay, or was it fast, or was it little slow? So I do need to know, because you are not present in the classes. Earlier, when there was an offline system, so we could have moderated looking at you that how well you are writing, how fast you are writing. So accordingly, we can moderate the pace, but otherwise, yes, all okay. Good, good. And I would be happy that when you would be saying to increase a little bit of speed, not in today's class, after 4 or 5 classes. So when you say this, so I would be happy that to go faster. But yes, I cannot expect that everybody would be writing very fast in the beginning of the classes. In fact, I would share in one class that how to write fast. Not today. In any other class, when we will be in some kind of lighter mode. So I would share that how to write fast in this exam. And I would also share few of the important observations from this exam. So not today, since we have just started. अभी तो कुछ history के अंदर भी नहीं गए हैं, अभी तो कुछ बस ऐसे ही touch कर रहे हैं. So I would share one fine day. So please write. It was established on 20th of March 1602 as a chartered company to trade with Mughal India, chartered company to trade with Mughal India and Indonesian islands. And Indonesian islands. They were majorly, after full stop, Indonesian islands, they were majorly interested in spice trade. They were majorly interested in spice trade, full stop. Spice trade, full stop. They opened factories at, yes, hers, all of them were paying to the Portuguese. In the beginning, all of them were paying to the Portuguese. But later on, tables turned. So, later on tables turned, we will, that's not required, that's when it turned. Because, chalo pooch rahe ho to I would just give you a little bit of this, that I'll get a little bit of information. See, in 15th century, that 15th century they arrived, and 16th century was the century of the Portuguese, that they had monopoly, 1500 to 1600, in fact, till 1620s. But then after, when the British started to gain power, they established their control on the Indian Ocean and then also Arabian Sea. So from there onwards, they do not needed to pay to the Portuguese. But before that, in the beginning when they came, they all were paying fee to the Portuguese. Then, so further you write that they were interested in spice trade. They opened factories at Pulicat, Cambay, Surat, Pulicat, Cambay, Surat, Hariharpur, Agra, Nagapattinam, Dhaka. So very quickly, they opened factories at these all places. Also at Patna. Patna. So I hope you know Pulicat. It's a lake, Pulicat Lake, I hope you know. And then also the Sriharikota, the space center of India, is there in the Pulicat Lake. Cambay, Gujarat. Surat, you know Gujarat. Agra, UP. Haryarpur, Odisha. Then Patna, you all know, Bihar. Dhaka, Bangladesh, and Nagapattinam, Tamil Nadu. So these all places, they created these factories or trading centers. Then you mentioned they had to face stiff competition. They had to face stiff competition with the English and Portuguese. They had to face stiff competition with the English and Portuguese. English and Portuguese. Full stop. At that point of time, they also had monopoly of trade. At that point of time, they also had monopoly of trade with Indonesia. With Indonesia. Full stop. Later on, they decided to wind up their business. They decided to wind up their business from India in favor of Indonesia. They decided to wind up their business from India in favor of Indonesia, or to control Indonesia, so that they can focus on Indonesia and nobody else must come to the Indonesia. So that was their purpose, and they successfully did that. And it was later on they realized that it was a good decision to go with, because India was going to become a boiling pot between the French and the English then. So they were happy that they have held the fort at the Indonesian islands, and they did not let anybody else's to come to the Indonesian islands then. So this is all about the Dutch East India Company that we needed to know. Now we will be moving to the Danish East India Company, but before moving, I would give you 7-8 minutes break, and then after we will continue with the Danish East India Company, then English East India Company and French East India Company. So let's take a little bit of break. So let's get back to the next topic, and the next company which came to India, obviously it was the British East India Company, but we are not going to see the British East India Company first, because the entire history is about the British only. That right from this time until the independence, it's all about the British. So, and the biggest challenge to the Britishers as an European or foreigner power was the French. So that is the thing that we'll be seeing later on. But let's talk about that, those lesser important people from the Indian perspective who came to India. So the next is the Danish East India Company. Danish means that Denmark. So the people who came from the Denmark. So now, please write the Danish East India Company. Now listen, so this company, it was created in 1616. It was formed in 1616, and you have seen about the Dutch East India Company in 1602. And in between 1608 was the time when the English East India Company came to India. And then came the this Danish East India Company. So Danish East India Company 1616, And they were established when they were established, they came to India, and in India they created their trading outpost. Here, at some places, if I have mentioned factory here means that trading centers only. In the beginning, these are the trading centers. It's not a production center, but it was a trading center. So these people, they created their trading outposts or trading centers at Trankebar. Trankebar is in Tamil Nadu, and then Frederick Nagar, which is also known as Serampur. This area was in the Bengal. So these two were the important outposts, trading outposts of the Danish East India Company: Frederick Nagar, Serampur in Bengal, and Trankebar in Tamil Nadu. Now, it all started, and apart from the trade objectives, one of the big objective of the Danish East India Company was the missionary activity. Though all the other companies, they were also doing the missionary activity. For example, when the Portuguese came to India, what they did, that they also started making many churches, and some of the very celebrated churches are there till this point of time. In fact, you go to the Goa and then you have not visited those churches, so it feels that you have not seen the entire Goa. So Bournemouth Basilica, so these all churches you have seen, and they were also involved in the missionary activity, but it was not their foremost agenda. Their foremost agenda was earning profit from the trade, and then they started to settle in India. But this company, from the beginning itself, that not only they were interested in trade, but they also wanted to do some kind of missionary activity in India. So in this regard, one of the big officer of this company, his name was William Reverend Carey. So Reverend William Carey, in 1799, he created a printing press at the Serampur in Bengal, and this is the place from where the Bible started to be published. So this press was created to publish the Bible. So it was printing the Bible, and this Bible was distributed among the Indian masses, particularly the people from the tribal areas, and then also the people who were more ameliorated towards the Danes. After establishing this printing press, he also went on to create a college. So this college was named after the Serampur College, after the name of the place only, Serampur College, and in 1819, and this college was meant for the higher education in Western style. So Serampur College for higher education in Western style. Now, they never became, this Danish East India Company, they never became a very big power in India. In fact, they were going good. They were, whichever place they were there, they were just kind of that going good at that place. But once the British power started to rise in the Bengal area, and that you will be learning, that you will be reading. So when their power rose in Bengal and they became the masters of the Bengal, so it was very hard for this Danish East India Company to continue with the same fervor. So what they did, that 1845, Denmark ceded Serampur to Britain, and they winded their business from the Bengal. So please write few words about the Danish East India Company. It was formed in 1616. It was formed in 1616. 1616. They established their trading outpost. They established their trading outpost at Trankebar, in Tamil Nadu, Frederick Nagar, Serampur. Just 1 minute. Serampur, in Bengal. Frederick Nagar and Serampur in Bengal. Then Further right, Serampore also became hub of the Danish missionary activity. Serampore also became the hub of Danish missionary activity. Missionary activity. Then there is a one disclaimer to you guys. See, since it is the very first class, so I didn't want it to irritate you, then, but you have all the weapons to irritate me. See that I hope that you must have been conveyed this very firmly. I hope that your classes are going from last 2 months. So you must have been conveyed that the questions that you would be asking in the question screen, not in the response screen. Response screen is for only responding to the question that had been asked by me. So if you don't understand this thing in the very simple words, it becomes very difficult, that you are not paying attention to the details which are given to you. So you must avoid this thing. See that if I keep on looking, when you are sending the questions in the response screen, obviously I'm keep on looking, and then it creates a distraction. The flow of the class is going to interrupted, and moreover, I know that enthusiasm which is there, but that you will have to post in the question screen. And first of all, if the questions would be of difficult nature, then it would be forwarded by the experts to me, and onus would not be on me, so that after every minute I'm responding to some of your questions. Though I do, but please follow that what has been conveyed to you. Ask the questions in the question screen, and then give replies in the response screen. That's very simple, and it's very simple to understand. I can second your enthusiasm that you want to know. So no issues, but yes, definitely some of the questions that you have asked in this screen, I will answer. So first of all, who has asked? Prashant. So it's an interesting question, Prashant, that you have asked. So this is Portuguese speak with Xamarin with different language. In fact, we are talking about the modern Indian history. Can you think of the time when ancient India, that's the more older times, ancient and medieval India, how come these rulers who are coming from the other part of the world, they are coming to India, and then how they were conversating? The same question applies to that period also. Ancient, I would start with the ancient. You know that there is a complicated answer for this one. And that complicated answer, that generally what happens, that we as the people of the modern age, we do believe that there is an international language that is English, and then in each and every country there are the speakers of the English, and so that you can conversate. Moreover, every country, that Chinese Mandarin is also learned by Indians in India, and Chinese are also learning Mandarin in their own Mandarin country, because they don't learn, apart from the English, they don't learn any other language. And if at all, if you happen to see a Chinese who is speaking in Hindi, so then he must not be a Chinese. So jokes apart, but let's get back to the original thing. So nowadays that you have an international language, particularly English, so English, that every country do have the speaker, and we always think in the line of the English only, or in the line of the modern age, that we do have an international language. But that's not the case, and that's how we think, that that's not the case in the older times, and that's not the case when the Britishers came to India, that's not the case when medieval India was there, that's not the case when ancient India was there. But that's not true. I told something in the yesterday's class, that history is created by the little determined people, and this little determined people were not the kings and queens, but in fact they were small traders, merchant, bankers, and people related to the business and commerce. So these people related to trade, business, and commerce, they were the one that there was a task before them, that they were always interested in trade, and they were the one who were coming in their own area, who were coming with the new articles, new kind of commodities in their own area, and making the people available this new material, that making the people of their own area this new material available to them, and they were explaining them. So they were always in search of the new commodities, new inventions, and new things from the all over the world from where they can earn profit. But one of the important tasks before them was to master the language. And you know that there was a community in the Central Asia. Since you have asked this question, so I will answer. There was a community in the Central Asia, and this community was known as the Sogdians. So Sogdians were the one who were considered, and this is a time, if you ask me that exact time when these Sogdians were there who were mastering the different languages, this exact time is that, let me tell you, that when he came, who was that? So, Weinsang, Fahian, and that time would be 4th century AD. So around 4th century AD, this was the Sogdians. So Sogdians were the one who were learning the different languages. Then they were coming to a particular area, they were learning the language then, and they were the one who were many a times they were accompanying with the other people, that people, suppose that Sogdians are there from the Central Asia and somebody from the Greek area is coming to India. So they always sought help of the Sogdians so that they can conversate in the Indian language. So this tradition is going back to the 4th century AD, and this kind of tradition flourished since already there was a contact. I told you that land contact was there from the time immemorial. Then, so when this that land contact was there, so already these people who have decided to come to India, they have learned a bit of the language of Indians. Then, and moreover, the Sogdian community, they spread to the other parts of the world, and moreover, they were the one who initiated the process of learning many languages. Then, so one of the fascinating job at that point of time was the learning language. Even at this point of time, it's a very fascinating thing that you learn many languages. And once you learn many languages, so you feel blessed and you feel that plethora of literature is available before you. So don't think in a way that only in the modern age that you can conversate in an international language that is English, but it was already there from the ancient times. And the people who were the masters of the many language were the Sogdians, and the many other countries and the traders and the communities, they took help of the Sogdians in learning the language of the country they aspire to go to. So I hope you have understood. Chalo. So I'll move further. What you have written, I forgot. So, hub of the missionary activity. Then, next paragraph you write that Reverend William Carey, Reverend William Carey, Reverend William Carey established a printing press at Serampore in 1799. At Serampore in 1799 for printing Bible. For printing Bible. Then further we mention, he also established Serampore College. He also established Serampore College in 1819. He also established Serampore College in 1819 for providing higher education. In Western style. For providing higher education in Western style. Higher education in Western style. Full stop. Then you mention. In 1845, Denmark ceded. 1845, Denmark ceded. CEDED means it gave. So CEDED ceded Serampore to British East India Company. Serampore to British East India Company. Or English you can write. said it to the English. So now we are at the topic which we waited for long, and that is the English East India Company. So let's have a look at the English East India Company today. And in next class, I would be talking about the French East India Company, and then we'll be starting with the later Mughals. So interesting topics starts from the English East India Company. So let's begin with the very important one, and that is the English East India Company. So please mention the English East India Company. So the English East India Company. So now listen, that initially that this company which was created, we are not talking about the arrival of this company in India, but in the beginning, this company was created in 1599. So 1599, this company was created with not with the same name. This is a name which came later, and it's a generic version that we are writing. That after 1700, we started to call this company as an English East India Company. But before that, it had many names. It changed over the period. In fact, that it was in the beginning Merchant Adventurers. In the beginning, then it became British Joint Stock. So British Joint Stock, in fact, there were two persons. One was some Wiggs, John Wiggs, and there was one more person. I'm not remembering his name. So John Wiggs and one more person. So two people initially, they created the company. And Merchant Adventurers, beginning, this was the name. Then they came to be known as the British Joint Company. But the name which was more popular, and which is more popular even till this point of time, that is the English East India Company. So don't go by the name. It changed over the period, but overall it is known as the English East India Company. So first time this company was created, the foundation of this company was led in 1599 as a merchant adventurers to carry on trade with the eastern countries. So to carry on the trade with all the countries which are there in the east. Then Queen Elizabeth of Britain in 1600, on 31st of December 1600, she gave a royal charter. She gave a royal charter to this company to do trade with these all countries for 15 years. As I said to you, that chartered company. So when you are given a charter, so that charter is inclusive of the rights that you will be exercising in that country. And moreover, that it also says that what they will be paying to the British government then, and what is the duration of that charter. So she gave it for the 15 years then. And as per this charter, these British were allowed to fight for their cause in any area where they are establishing their trading centers. To safeguard their trading centers, to safeguard their trade and commerce, they can fight with the locals also. So this is also one part of the charters which were given by the European governments to these companies. So Royal Charter was given by Queen Elizabeth for 15 years on 31st of December 1600. Then later on, as I said to you, that this company, when it started to become big, so it was renamed as the English East India Company. So it was renamed as the English East India Company. Then it is said that this English East India Company in 1608 was the very first time when this company came to India. And in 1608, when it came to India, so it didn't have much success. So it didn't have much success in the beginning. There is a reason behind that. 1608, if you go by the medieval timeline, so that's the time when the Jahangir was the ruler of the India. So major part of the India was ruled by the Jahangir, except in the South Indian part where Vijayanagar kingdom, Bahmani rulers were there. So Jahangir was the ruler, and at this point of time, if you look at the other scenario, that who all Europeans were there, already their presence is there in India. So Portuguese had their presence from last 100 years, more than 100 years by this time. And then Dutch has also come to India. So Portuguese had great influence in the Mughal court, and great influence in the Mughal court, and it is just like that, early to come and early to gain all the benefits. So they have gained most of the benefits, most of the permissions that they have got from the Mughal emperors to establish their trading centers and then do the trade within in India, outside India. So they had many privileges. So once this English East India Company, their voyage came, so everybody was a little bit of circumspect, and then in the Mughal court, nobles were like that, why to give another company another such privilege? It's okay, Portuguese are okay, go with them. So people were a little bit comfortable with the Portuguese, and then moreover, Portuguese were also one of the nuisance in the court, because Portuguese were very clever people, and moreover, more than the clever, I will say clever, I'm not saying them they were cunning, because cunning is a term which is used for the Britishers, then it's not for the Portuguese. So Portuguese were very clever, and they tried each and hooks and crooks and then every method so that English must not be given the permission. Then, so they were exercising their influence in the court, but they were nuisance power. I will tell you the example of the nuisance power of the Portuguese later on, but not right now. So initially, in 1608, Sir William Hawkins, he came to the court of the Jahangir. Though he was given a cordial reception, at the same point of time, he was also given some Mansabdar status, but he was not given so much of concession in terms of the trading privileges. So then he again went back, Sir William Hawkins went back, and in 1612, something happened then. So there was one War of Holi. Then, so War of Holi, you don't need to write down. And even I would not dictate this part. You just listen to this part. It's a story. So there was a War of Holi, and this War of Holi, it was fought in the Arabian Sea, and this war was between the British and then Portuguese. So British and Portuguese. So in this war, British were victorious, and then after, Britishers came up with the idea that Arabian Sea is the route through which the Muslim pilgrims are going to the Mecca. So earlier, the Portuguese were charging. Even all the Muslim pilgrims who were going from the Arabian Sea to the Mecca, they were charging them. But this point of time, when the Britishers won this area, they proposed in the Mughal court that they would not be charging. And that's what I call cunning. Then, so in 1612, when Thomas Roe was in the court of the Mughals, and again the same Emperor Jahangir, and then all those nobles who were opposing the Britishers, and opposing the Britishers, now they were ameliorative towards the Britishers, and they were given concession. So this is the time that they were given concession, and after this concession, they started to build their factories, their trading outposts, their warehouses in a much greater speed. So please write few words about this. So please mention the English Association of Merchant Adventurers. Merchant Adventurers. Adventurers was established in 1599. Was established in 1599. In 1599, with the objective of carrying on trade with the East, with the objective of carrying on trade with the East. Full stop. Then, on 31st of December, on 31st of December 1600, on 31st of December 1600, Queen Elizabeth gave a royal charter for 15 years to merchant adventurers. For 15 years to merchant adventurers. Full stop. Merchant adventurers. Full stop. Later, this this organization, this company, or you can write later, this organization was renamed as the English East India Company. English East India Company. Then, after full stop, the initial voyages of this company under Sir Hawkins was not so successful. Initial voyages of this company under Sir Hawkins was not so successful in getting concession from the Mughal court. Full stop. And in brackets you can write that why it was happening. Jahangir was interested in giving the concessions to the Hawkins, but why he was not able to give? Because pressure from the nobles and Portuguese influence in the Mughal court. So you write that, in brackets you write that it is because of Portuguese influence in the Mughal court. It is because of Portuguese influence in the Mughal court. Portuguese influence in the Mughal court and pressure from the nobles. Then further you write but British were after full stop, bracket close, and then you write, though they didn't have many concessions, but yes, they were given permission that they can create 2 trading outposts at 2 places, Surat and Masulipatam. So by 1612, their 2 trading centers were complete, that is Surat and Masulipatam. So you write, but British were successful in creating trading centers at Surat and Masulipatam by 1612. Then further you mention, in 1615, after full stop, and you can change the paragraph. In 1615, Sir Thomas Roe, usually when I write Sir Thomas Sir at any place, I think that's Sir Ravindra Jadeja, but you will have to change this Sir. So he is Thomas Roe, not the Jadeja. So Sir Thomas Roe visited Jahangir's court. In 1615, Sir Thomas Roe visited Jahangir's court, and he was granted further trading concessions. Now, there is one small story over here. It's not just that the War of the Holly, but also defeat of the Portuguese and the cunningness of the British, but also Thomas Roe had a close relation with the then wife and then Kaisar Hind of the, or you can say that Empress of the India, Noor Jahan. So it is said that outside the formal story, there is an informal story also, that once that Thomas Roe got to know there was one incident. Initially, there was one incident. It is said that when Sir Thomas Roe came, and as per the British, that what happens in the Britain, that he did not ask before sitting on the chair. He did not ask the permission of the Jahangir. So Jahangir was not happy with this. So Jahangir was not happy with this. So that was the time when Noor Jahan, she cited Thomas Roe, and then she gave instructions to the Thomas Roe that these are the Mughal etiquettes and then you will have to follow. So Thomas Roe started to follow, and moreover, he wanted to apologize for the mistake that he has done, or whatever way he has not paid a respect to the Mughal emperor. So then this lady Noor Jahan suggested Thomas Roe that my husband Jahangir is a painting freak. All the time what he is interested in, it's all about the painting. All the time, if he gets the time, and then what he's doing, so he's only doing a painting, he's painting something. So if you bring some kind of good paintings from your own area, so he would be happy, and that's what he did. So he was acting like that he's not leaving any stone unturned. Then, so by hook, crook, and then also by cunningness and by all the means, he tried that British will get the concession, and he was helped a little bit by Noor Jahan. So that's how he brought many gifts to the Jahangir, and which included the paintings, and obviously he was a human being, he was very happy. And you know that we human beings are very like that only, that if somebody cares about you, though what is the intention behind that, you will never know. But gifts and these all kind of things, they bring a little bit of smile and they bring a little bit of favoritism. Then, so that's what happened. So this time, Thomas Roe was given further trading concessions, and after this trading concession, he went on to create. Already Surat and Masulipatam is there. He wanted to create the trading centers at Agra, and then Ahmedabad, so Agra, Ahmedabad, and then places like the Bharuch. So at that point of time, Bharuch, I hope you know, Bharuch is in between Vadodara and the Surat. And Bharuch Ankleshwar, this is the place, that point of time it was known as the Bharuch. So Britishers called it Bharuch. So these all places, they, by 1639, they created the trading centers. And in 1639, the Britishers got some villages around Madras. And at this point of time, they got it with the permission of the then Vijayanagar ruler. But Vijayanagar kingdom has already become a subdued kingdom. Their rule is limited to very confined to very limited area, but still they gave some village to the this one village, that village to the Britishers, and around this village they went on to create. They named it Madras, and then they went on to create this Sanford George. So their big settlement is going to be the Madras. Then, so in Madras, they created their first fort, that is Sanford George. Somebody asked about the fort. Fort is about that where the people are living. It's not just the arsenal, but it's all about that they are living, their commercial activity is going on, their headquarters. So it means many things, not just for keeping the arsenal. Then, so it's a residence also, it's a commercial activity place also, and it's a headquarter also. So they created Sanford George in Madras in 1639. And then there was a big event and big impetus for the Britishers in 1661. I'll tell you later, but first you write what we needed to write. So what you have written, that he was given further, granted further concessions. Then more, you write, which led to the establishment of factories, at Agra, Ahmedabad, and Bharuch. See, nowadays we call this place as a Bharuch. Then Bharuch, but you are writing the English pronunciation, so they called it Bharuch. Agra, Ahmedabad, and Bharuch. Full stop. Did you mention? Around 1639, British got some villages. Around 1639, British got some villages on lease. British got some villages on lease around Madras, where they created 1639. British got some villages around Madras where they created Sanford George. Sanford George, where they created Sanford George. Now listen, the next part of the story. So next part of that, not just the story, that what has happened. So in 1661, there was a matrimonial alliance between the enemies for the life are going to become the friends then, and this matrimonial alliance is going to happen between the Britain and the Portuguese then. So the Portuguese earlier, who did not like the British, now they have become a little bit soft, and then there is a big matrimonial alliance between the two. So what happened, that Prince Catherine of Braganza, she was a Portuguese princess. Prince Catherine of Braganza, she was married with the Prince Charles II of the Britain. In 1661, this marriage happened. So Prince Charles II of the Britain and Princess Catherine of Braganza of the Portugal, they were married. And in this marriage, the island of Bombay, which was there with the Portuguese, then it was transferred to the British monarch. So as a dowry price, the Bombay area was given to the Britishers. Earlier, it was in the control of the Portuguese. So it was given to the Britishers. Now, what happened, that this Britishers, they got it, not the Britishers, British monarch. Now, in 1668, the British monarch gave this Bombay island to the English East India Company. So first it was given to the British monarch, and in 1668 it was given to the private company, that is English East India Company, at a nominal price of the 10 pounds. Then so at a nominal price of the 10 pounds, if you calculate, I don't know that how to calculate the inflation in this amount. So in one such class, I was asking for this estimation that 10 pound of 1668, how much it would be there at this point of time. So somebody calculated around that 2,40,000 pounds. But even that is a very less amount. Then it's a very less amount for such a big place like the Bombay. So it was transferred to the English East India Company. I don't know how that person calculated, because there is no formula right now before us that we can calculate that 10 pounds how of 1668, how it will turn out to be 2,40,000 pounds in 2021. So now, you don't need to go into that inflation part, but 10 pounds, it's a very less amount. Then even you can pay that. जो लोग विजन का फीस पे कर सकते हैं, वो तो ऐसे ही पे कर देंगे. It's a very, very small amount. Then so even you could have bought the Bombay. So now listen. So soon this Bombay became the trading headquarter of the Britishers. That was very important for them. So soon this Bombay became the trading headquarter of the Britishers, and after the Bombay becoming the trading headquarter of the Britishers, now the Britishers started to focus on the eastern side of the India, and though their entry in the eastern side of the India was relatively late but very robust. So in 1633 already in Odisha, Hariharpur, they have created a trading outpost, but in 1698, the English East India Company got 3 villages on lease, and these 3 villages on lease in the eastern India were the Govindpur, Sutnati and Kalikatta. So Govindpur, Sutnati and Kalikatta, and in fact, that these villages, when you go to Kolkata and central Kolkata, so you will see that Sutnati village is there. I have seen the Govindpur also, and then overall Calcutta is named after this village, Kalikatta. So these 3 villages were clubbed together, and here the Britishers created Sanford William. So here Britishers created Sanford William. Please write a few words. In 1661, there was a matrimonial alliance. In 1661, there was a matrimonial alliance between the Princess Catherine of Braganza, of Portugal with Prince Charles II. Prince Charles II. of Britain. Prince Charles II of Britain. Then further you mention, after full stop, as a dowry prize, Island of Bombay, as a dowry prize, Island of Bombay was transferred to the British monarch. Was transferred to the British monarch. Was transferred to the British monarch. Full stop. In 1668, Bombay was transferred to English East India Company. In 1668, Bombay was transferred to English East India Company. At a nominal price of £10. At a nominal price of £10. Then you write, soon Bombay became the trading headquarter of the Britishers. Soon Bombay became the trading headquarter of the Britishers. Full stop. Then you write the last part of the today's class. They entered in eastern part of India. Relatively late. That is Hariharpur in Odisha. They entered in the eastern part of India relatively late, that is Hariharpur in Odisha, 1633. Then further you mention, in 1698, East India Company acquired 3 villages on lease. East India Company acquired 3 villages on lease. 3 villages on lease, and you write the name of these villages: Govindpur, Sutanati, and Kalikatta. Govindpur, Sutanati, and Kalikatta. Full stop. These villages were clubbed together. And a fort was constructed. Named as Fort William. So named as Fort Williams. So this is all about that initial introduction about the English East India Company. There is much to explore about this company. In fact, that everything that we are going to explore related to this company is there. But this was the introduction. So the today's class comes to an end here, and next class, the only company which is remaining, that French East India Company, will be starting with, and thereafter I will start with the later Mughal emperors, their history, and then decline of Mughals. So this is a fodder for the next 2 classes. So thank you for today and listening patiently. Meet you next week. Good night.